Evening and welcome to Four Guys, a Girl, and a Show. With you always, my name is JQ. We have Brian Isaacs,
Hey, hey.
Mike Hopkins,
Yo.
Miss Stacy Rader,
Good evening.
and our buddy Dave is out saving lives up there, so he's going to be off tonight. We are going to have a really good show tonight for you guys. We have a very special guest we'll announce shortly. But first and foremost, we'd like to send thoughts and prayers to all of our friends and family and fans up in the Northeast who were affected by that superstorm Sandy. May you guys have a speedy recovery and hope it all works out for you guys. I know Brian and Mike and Dave, they're all up there and they're here, so everything is good for them. But everybody else has some stuff to work on. So we wish you a speedy recovery. Today, we are going to have a special guest, like I said. Our guest is from DC Collectibles, Mr. Jim Fletcher.
I love that guy.
Jim, welcome to the show. Thanks for being aboard.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I'm excited, as always, to talk about our stuff.
Well, Jim, for those of our fans who may not know what you do for DC Collectibles, can you give us a brief synopsis of what your role is at DC Collectibles?
Yeah, okay. I'm basically the design director for the Creative Services Group, which has DC Collectibles in it. So it's basically my job to supervise all the products that we put out. Some of them might work on myself. Most of the time I'm working with my two art directors, Sean Knapp and Brian Webster, and their team. They have some guys under them, and then I've got another guy, Evan Metcalf, that runs all the packaging. So together as a team, we all basically, try to get all the cool toys done in a timely fashion as possible to get them out the door and also make them look great.
And that they do, my friend. I'm a big fan.
Okay.
What got you started? Were you always at DC, or were you somewhere else beforehand, or was this something you've always aimed for?
Well, one of my when I got this job, one of my best friends said, "Oh, you finally got the job you've been genetically bred for." So I thought that was kind of funny. I hadn't been at DC the whole time. Actually, I had been freelancing for DC for quite a while before I actually got the job there. So I have been working at Marvel for a while, doing a lot of freelance stuff for them as well. I've always loved comic books. I've been reading them since as far back as I can remember, actually. The comic that actually hooked me was Thor number 171. So there you go.
Wow. Nice.
That's where he fights the Wrecker. I could probably recite the whole thing since I seriously read it until the cover fell off and had to go buy a new one. So, that's what got me into comics a long time ago. And, it's been great to be able to make a career out of something that I'm so excited about every month. I mean, when they come out, I read all the Marvels and the DCs and stay on top of everything. It's so amazing to actually have a job in an industry when I grew up as a kid thinking there's probably, no real job here. Somebody just magically makes all these things. But and I found out that's not true.
That's awesome. You got the best of both worlds over there.
That's not too bad, yeah.
So what is a dream project that you have? Something you've been wanting to do at DC that you haven't done yet?
That's a tough question. So I've already had so many dream projects here, like like when we got to do the Jack Kirby line. I'm a sucker for Jack Kirby, so I can't start talking about that too much. So I'll just go on and on. But those toys didn't do as well as we were expecting, but that was kind of too bad. But I think creatively they were amazing. The Batman versus Killer Croc statue I thought really came out nicely as well, and of course the Amikami line I've designed a lot of those, and I'm really happy about those creatively. That's a real dream line for me because I really wanted that project to go through. It took a while to talk people into it. And now it's, now that it's launched a comic book and a line of clothing from Rubies. So that's pretty cool. The funny thing is that it's a dream job overall. So I don't know what I would consider a dream project because they're like I said before, they're all so much fun to work on. We have one or two brewing that I can't talk about yet that I'm still trying to convince people to do. So hopefully you'll see those, and I will list those also among my dream jobs if I can get them off the ground.
Fantastic. Yeah, those anime comic figures, we can't ever keep those on the shelf at our shop. And that book, I read issue number 1, and I actually dug it very well. It was a good book.
Well, I'm glad you like that. I mean, some people, what's funny about those is some people really dig them. Some people don't know what to do with them. But, I mean, enough people like them where we're still making them. So that's cool.
I mean, it's something that really took off because, I mean, even before Ruby set the costume, people were dressing up as those characters, as those versions. It's just amazing how it's just a blend of two different, you got the East and West just blended together and so well. It's just amazing how it took off.
And I wasn't sure how they would do, honestly, because, a lot of traditional comic book readers don't really, a lot of them don't read manga, and the other way around is true as well. So I wasn't really sure how it was going to do, but that's why we tried to keep in the early ones, especially the costumes, fairly close to the characters so you could tell who they were right away. And, recently we've branched out and gone a little more outside the box with the actual design work on them. But that's really been an amazing project. So, yeah, I thank all the cosplayers for wearing those around because it actually helped sell the thing into Ruby's because I sent a bunch of pictures of them to Ruby's when they were developing the costumes. So shout out to my cosplayer friends. Thank you.
Nice. So is there a project that you would like to revisit in the future or possibly redo?
I think almost any art director that I know wishes they could go back and redo something over again. There's so many factors that make up the decision-making process. Overall, I'm proud of most of the work that we do. I think that being said, if I had to change stuff, I'd probably change the scale of some of the older figures. Like when we did the Anti-Monitor, for example, we had to make them almost the same size as everybody else, which was, not so fun at the time. But mostly I think what I'd like to do is fix the past production issues at this point.
All right. Who is your favorite hero, villain, or super team? Do you have one or do you have many or?
Well, I guess not all comic books are created equal. So since Thor got me into comics when I was a kid, I'm going to have to say that's probably my number one favorite comic book hero. I did like Green Lantern at DC, and I actually had a kid on my block that we used to go back and forth arguing about like Hulk and Superman things. So it was like that classic arguing Marvel and DC stuff, which was kind of fun. So yeah, it would be Thor for Marvel, Green Lantern for DC. I really love the New Gods and the Forever People for well, of course there's another Jack Kirby thing, but for some reason I just like those characters a lot. There's something about them that's very timeless. They can be interpreted a lot of different ways, I think, because they were written so wide open without a lot of specifics. So I think there's a lot that can still be said and done with those characters.
Right.
Yeah, I think my favorite villain's probably Darkseid, then, if I had to pick somebody.
Yeah, looking forward to that big mad boy you got coming out in January.
Yeah, he's pretty massive. We had a lot of fun with him in the office. My favorite story about that was when I went to ask Jim Lee, like, how big is he? Because he was still drawing the book. And he tells me he's 2 Aquamans tall. So that is now that's our new Jim Lee measurement system for everything.
That's awesome.
I just love that. I use it all the time. I carry Aquaman figures around in my pocket if I have to like do some work around the house or something.
Is that why the picture for the scale has 2 Aquamans on top of each other?
Yep, that's exactly right.
I saw that in the previews. I had to laugh. I'm like, why are there 2 Aquamans right there?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. That was his exact quote from him. And then when he came in to look at the final product, I handed him 2 Aquamans. I'm like, here you go. Measure him up.
How heavy is he? I have to know, how heavy is he?
I don't know his exact weight. I guess because he's a god, he can alter his weight. I actually don't know the exact weight of the character, but he's pretty heavy. I mean, he wouldn't survive in a blister car, that's for sure. I mean, we have to put him in a box because he's too massive. He's not completely solid. And And the reason I know that is because when the prototypes came in from China, we actually sawed them in half to figure out what they did. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, because we held the Parademons and the Titan Joker at the shop. I'm going, man, these are this heavy. That dark side's gonna be like a brick.
Yeah, he's definitely a package buster. He's heavier than either of those guys.
Well, let's roll into some questions about DC collectible products that we have on our minds. First and foremost, like I said, I'm a huge fan, and most of my room, and Mike can attest to this, is mostly DC collectibles, statues, and figures. And I'll tell you right now, when I received at the shop I work at the Superman New 52 bust, I didn't notice the top corner said Red Variant on top. Was that something y'all did as a toss-in, or did y'all have plans to do that in the future for more statues? Because I love the fact that I got the red eyes and didn't even know it.
Yeah, we thought that was kind of fun. It's something we actually talked about doing, and we probably should have given a little more notice out there when we did it, I think, looking back at it. But we don't have any more plans to do any more variant eyeballs, at least for that particular bust at this point. So you won't see any more surprises about that bust.
All right. And what about the numbering system? Because for a while, as a collector, we would always try to get the lowest number possible and all that stuff. And I noticed that toward the recent release of some of the black and white statues and whatnot, the numbering system was gone. Was there a reason for that, or can you elaborate on that for us?
Sure. The reason we did away with the numbering system is it was actually shaving off a significant amount of production time, believe it or not. It sounds like it's a pretty easy thing to do, but it was sucking up a lot more time on our end and actually delaying some products in some case. And we are still working on improving our on-time delivery, but we are considering a couple of limited numbered statues for next year. So you should be out and look out for those if you're if you like to get the lower numbers. We'll announce which ones they're going to be when they come out, but I think in general we're going to be backing away from that for the time being.
All right.
Dog, if you were wondering what that noise was.
Yeah, I was like, yes, someone's dog.
Sounded like the dog wasn't happy.
Yeah, she actually went under my chair and then stuck her foot under it by mistake. Oh, well, it's always a lively interview.
Well, my another question about the statues is the partnership with Sideshow. Is this something that's temporary, or is it going to be long-term, or can you not elaborate on that?
Yeah, I can go into that a little bit. We were actually pretty happy when Sideshow got the license to do it. We're looking forward to a long-term relationship with them. They're not. We don't really work with them. I mean, we see what each other is doing. We show each other the presentations. They do amazing product that we're not currently producing, so it's no really big deal for us. When we gave them when we talked about who's going to get the quarter scale and who's going to get the bust, because we weren't doing an awful lot of them anyway, and Sideshow does an amazing job with their products. So I don't have any issues with that, and it's not a surprise or anything. So,
is it possible we'll see 12-inch figures
from Sideshow?
Yes.
Oh, I actually don't have all of their plans like that. I don't know what they're going to be producing, but for the most part, I think they're going to be sticking with their, the stuff that you're familiar that Sideshow does. I'm not aware of all their plans, though.
Yeah, when that Joker was announced, I had to have it. I did get it, and I was kind of worried that you guys were going to probably back away from statues. I like your statues as well. I mean, like I said, most of my room is blanketed with them.
Yeah, my room is too, so we'll have to compare pictures one day.
Jim, I would be more than happy to send you pictures of my collection.
That's awesome. Actually, I'm going to ask people to start doing that. I think we're going to start putting stuff on our Facebook page, because I talk to a lot of people at shows, and they tell me I have all this stuff, and it's always and actually the first guy actually finally sent one in, so we're going to be asking people to do that. I'm not sure what I'll do with them yet, but that would be cool to see.
Well, definitely. After the show, I'll send you my email, and we'll exchange stuff.
Oh, awesome.
All right. Well, let's go into some of the questions about the Green Lantern 3 3/4 inch exclusives. Are there any announcements for the next batch of what con they're going to be at, or are they going to be exclusive to the graffiti website?
Now, that's one I can't talk about, unfortunately, but we do have some great things in store for 2013. I actually am not allowed to say yet, so sorry about that.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
But I can say there will be more, if that helps.
Cool. 'Cause I know our boy Mike Hopkins over there. He likes these things a lot.
We have a lot of fun with those. Yeah, we have the articulation that we worked on really was a lot of fun. They're super detailed, too. I'm really happy with those figures. They're a lot of fun to play with if you're a collector of that scale, or you like those those little guys that they move really well. Again, the detailing is amazing on those. The level that we could achieve with them, we're all super happy.
Now,
sorry, Jay. On the same subject, since you can't comment on the other one, are we going to see the orange versions that you did for Halloween of John Stewart and the other guy?
Those we put up there just for that, that Halloween kind of fun picture. If enough people are that interested in it, I would certainly consider it. We didn't really have plans to go ahead with that, but people thought there were a lot of people asking questions about it. I noticed.
Well, segueing into the articulation discussion. I see the Wave 4 of Arkham City are going to have more articulation. Is that a future endeavor for all of DC Collectibles action figure lines that have that articulation, or is it a test run of Batman?
Yeah, we have been discussing this at length, and the general answer to that question is yes, that we're going to be adding more articulation in than we used to, for sure. It's going to depend. It's going to depend on the individual toy design in some cases. That's where we like to look for where it makes the most sense without interfering with the design of the figure. I mean, that was always our mandate before, but I think we're hearing more and more that people want to pose them more and play with them more. So we're definitely looking into that, and it's going to make a difference depending on who the character is.
Awesome.
So they won't all have blanket articulation all in the same place, but they are going to have more, sure.
That's awesome. Now we talked about Darkseid already, but with Darkseid coming out as a larger character, and we've seen the Titan Joker, and we've seen Killer Croc and Mr. Freeze all as deluxe figures. Are there any? Is there any more announcements for future larger scale figures like that?
Well, I'm not sure that anybody is too Darkseid's tall yet, hopefully, but for sure we like to think big. I mean, these figures are a challenge from a costing and production point of view, but we like to keep things in scale, which is one of the mandates we've been discussing with the action figure lines. And again, we'll be using our Jim Lee measurement system for Aquaman's for everything. But yeah, there'll definitely be more big figures for sure.
I'm going to use that to school from now on with my kids. Mr. Q, how big is that? 2 Aquaman's tall, kid. 2 Aquaman's tall.
I want to see the ruler.
Well, I'm 6 foot.
Maybe
I'm
we'll
6 foot.
We'll have DC Collectibles make an Aquaman ruler and mail it out to you guys. You're going to have it.
That's awesome.
I'm 6'5", so I wonder how many Aquaman's tall I am.
I could probably figure it out. If I didn't want to interfere with this call, I could get up my calculator and figure it out probably. But you'd be a few Aquamans tall if you're 6'5". That's man. Well, you figure around 6 1/4 inches tall. So there you go.
Be about a case of Aquaman's tall, Mike.
Yeah. Actually, if you want to buy a case of Aquaman's, that'd be awesome.
Didn't do the measure myself.
Yeah. We can see Mike laying down with Aquaman's around him.
That'd be a great growth chart for my kid. That's all I got to say.
That would be a great growth chart.
Are there any plans, Jim, of releasing more of the Aardman DC characters from the DC Nation cartoon?
I love those Aardman figures. They did really well at the show. We've been very happy with them. So I think you can definitely keep your eyes open for some more of those Aardman characters.
That's awesome. Any hint on the next Bombshell statue?
You know, I actually was thinking about that, and I can tell you the next one will be a female figure. You're welcome. Yeah. So you can take that hint and work it out from there, right?
We'll do the best we can.
Okay.
From what you showed at New York Comic Con, I really enjoyed those bombshells a lot, Jim. Those were just, and I was there for the for the panel you guys had.
Yep.
And all I could think as you're discussing about the artists that you got for it is just like, you guys, it was a real shame that Dave Stevens passed away because he would have been perfect for that project.
Oh, no, that was too bad. It was an awesome, he's an amazing illustrator, and that was a shame. The guy that we found, we were pretty happy. I actually met him in Chicago. Geez, I don't know. It's got to be 3 years ago, I think. Probably, and I remember talking to him, that guy Aunt Lucia, and I'm like, I'm going to do something with you, but I don't know what. And we kept exchanging emails, and every show I see him, I'm like, I still love your stuff. Then we dreamed up this project. We've been wanting to do something like that for a while, and we finally came up with this pitch that we got sold in, and we pulled up a bunch of different artists, and Ant's stuff was in there, and everybody was instantly like, yeah, that's the guy. And Tim Miller's sculpting all of those, and I'm super happy to be working with him. We only worked with him briefly before on one other project, but we're going to, looking at the way he's handling this line, I'm hoping we can keep on the whole thing, because they're just amazing looking. And the response was great at the show.
Yeah, I got friends who aren't comic fans, but they're pinup fans, and they've seen those, and they're like, wow, I got to get that.
Yeah, it's another thing, sort of like the Ami Kami thing. We're looking for a crossover appeal. I think it will. Obviously, there's a lot of collectors in our community for pinup art, so I think we hit this one right on the nose from the response that I saw.
Definitely.
Cool.
Well, we see the Arkham City figures. We saw that there was supposed to be an announcement on Halloween for the official release of the fourth figure, and we're seeing little teaser shots. Is there anything you could tell us about it? We have speculation of who we think it might be, but can you add to our speculation?
Let's see. Can I add to your speculation? Well, yeah, I looked at the shots that are up there today. I guess if you've got a really good eye, you could maybe figure out who it is, but I'm not even if you guessed, I wouldn't be at liberty to say, so sorry. But the teaser thing that we're running that program on Wednesdays, we think that's a lot of fun. And so far, people have been responding pretty well to it. I mean, there's, obviously you guys are pretty familiar with the game, so I'm sure you've got some pretty good guesses about who it could possibly be. But if I tell you on this thing, I will probably hear about it when I go back to work. So you just have to keep...
All right, understood. Is there anything you could share about the 2013 figure releases and statue releases? Any spoilers or anything you could share about what you are going to throw our way?
Well, we're going to be going deeper into figures based on the new 52 launch. I know you guys have seen all the Justice League stuff out there already. Some of them we've been wanting to do since the figures were in, the new characters were introduced. So at this point, we've got a lot of interesting characters coming out from that line. A lot of people have asked us if we're going to go back and be doing older stuff. And we've done, and if you go back and look at all the stuff DC Direct at the time we did a ton of figures based on older designs and stories. So we're definitely going to be focusing on new 52 characters. They won't all, I can say for sure they won't all be involved with Justice League, but that's about all I can tell you for now, unfortunately. But I'm really excited about them. That I can also say.
They look so good stacked up next to each other. I mean, I love my set.
Did you get them all? Did you get the box set, or did you get them when they came out one at a time?
No, I work at a comic shop, so as well as being a teacher, so I get them as they come out. I have not gotten the box set yet.
Yeah, they're great. I was really happy about the way those figures came out. We worked pretty close with Jim on those designs, and now that we're all out in the California office, it's pretty easy just to run down the hallway and say, hey, can you take a look at this? So he's pretty happy with them.
Awesome. Well, Jim, I cannot thank you enough for giving us some of your time tonight. It was real fun talking to you, and I mean, unless anyone else has any questions for Jim, I mean,
or any questions about stuff I can't tell you.
and do we understand that, man. We know that you have to keep telling about a lot of stuff, so we understand that very much. But again, the stuff that you talked to us about today was amazing. It was great, and like I said, I didn't want to geek out too much, but like I said, I'm looking forward to exchanging pictures of my room with you.
Hey man, if you're not geeking out too much now, you're in the wrong job. That's all I can say. This is the time for us to geek out. That's why that's why me and all the guys on the team back in the office work here. I mean, that's what's so cool about this job. So
personally, I appreciate you just giving us this new measurement system, Jim. I'm now going to compare everything in height to two Aquaman high. So I appreciate that one.
That teacher in high school said math was not my strong suit. Wow, huh? There you go. I've just created a measurement.
Hey, Jim, I do have one final question, and it's just out of curiosity. I know they're releasing the Superman in the Heroes pack. Because they're doing this prior to the set release date for the Superman, how come the Superman was set for January instead of doing it in December?
We had an order of production with the factory we're working with, and that's really just the way it worked out. So the one in the box set comes out first because it had to be done in time for the end of the year, basically.
Okay.
So that's the simple answer.
Rumor has it there's a separate head too, right? The one in January had a separate head than the one in the box set, I heard.
That is true. They do have different heads.
That could be.
Yeah, I think the one out of the box has a smile on him, and the one in the box has more of a stern look.
Yeah, that's right. We did something different for that one because they are coming out so close together. We didn't want them to be exactly the same figure. So at least there's there's some difference between the two.
Awesome. Well, Jim, again, we thank you for your time. We're going to roll into our next topic, and if you want to stick around, you can. If not, I understand. We're going to talk about some Lucasfilm and Disney stuff.
Oh, I didn't even hear about it. I wonder what happened. So I'm probably gonna go and get some food, I think. But thanks for the invite for that. I'm sure that will be an interesting conversation, and I will check out your podcast and listen to it there.
Well, Jim, thanks again, and appreciate your time, and have a good meal, and stay safe in California.
I will do that, and you guys too. And everybody stay safe back east. And like the guy said in the beginning, my thoughts go out to everybody back there because that's that's where I'm from, and I've been keeping on top of all that. So everybody take care, and I hope that everybody's okay.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, man. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for everything.
Thanks, Jim.
Good night.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
All right, man. All right, bye.
All right, guys. Jim Fletcher. That was a good talk. Good talk. And I'm looking forward to this 2013 spoilers. And I think I caught his little hint about the fourth figure. He said if you have a good eye. So I think our thoughts of being Deadshot might be the one. That might be what it is. So we'll see. Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And if you were living under a rock or couldn't hear about it through somebody, LucasArts exactly, was purchased by Disney Corporation for the sum of some $4 billion. Cue the Dr. Evil music there. But so for the $4 billion then turns around, he's going to donate it to education. So for those of you who think George Lucas has a heart of steel, he actually has a heart of gold, in my opinion, because anyone who's going to give any money to education is a good guy in my book. So for thoughts about this, everyone has their speculations on what this means. So Disney buys Lucasfilms, LucasArts, Lucas everything that under the umbrella there. So does that mean we're going to start pumping out Star Wars this, Star Wars that, and what about the other franchises like Indiana Jones and E.T. and whatnot? So if you think about it in the long run, Disney and Lucas have been doing business a long time at the Disney parks with the Star Tours ride and the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular. But the biggest announcement was with the movies is that he was going to come out and say um, that in 2015 we were going to get a new Star Wars movie. So let's discuss. Stacy, what do you think about a new Star Wars in 2015?
Um, I think it's exciting. Honestly, I'll say it. I was probably not the biggest fan of the prequels. Of course, growing up, um, the original trilogy was my thing. The first one I saw in the theaters was Return of the Jedi, and it was a really cool experience for me. And I know it's one of those movies that a lot of people are like, oh, we don't like the Ewoks. And, I was the same way as an adult to say, oh, I don't really like Jar Jar. He's whatever. But then I look at like my nephews and they're watching the Clone Wars and they're watching, they've seen probably the prequels more than they've seen the original trilogy, though Aunt Stacy tries to kind of indoctrinate them and say, you're going to sit here and watch Return of the Jedi and you're going to play with the Ewok village with the vintage Ewoks and learn about this stuff too. But, I really look to kind of the Star Wars franchise continuing, and I think that's really exciting for those of us who are Star Wars fans that have been fans from way back. But I think it's exciting that there's a new generation of Star Wars films for a new generation of kids, and I think that can only be a positive thing for all of us. I know I've been guilty of it too. We all have our complaints about George Lucas, and he messes with the original movies, and he makes these movies that aren't as good as the other movies. But, um, I think it's just all in where you came into the story, and you have two choices. Either you say, we don't want to change it, we don't want anything new, we want to keep the original trilogy and we're just going to leave it there and let it die. Or you say, you know what, we're going to be open to some new perspectives and some new stories, and we're going to be totally okay with it. I think a good example is this week's Clone Wars episode was one of the best Star Wars things I've seen in a really long time. I mean, it was super interesting to me as an adult, so I can only imagine what it was like when kids watch it. So all that to say, I'm actually excited and to see what happens as this develops, and it certainly will probably be there opening night in 2015 watching the 7th episode.
Well, what do you think it's going to go on? Do you think they're going to touch the Dark Empire, or do you think they go somewhere else with it?
I don't know. I really don't, and I really don't want to speculate because I think I just want to sit back and kind of just let the information come to me. Just kind of be like, oh, that's where they're going with it. Oh, okay, that's interesting because I really don't know. Because I've read a lot of the kind of expanded universe stuff. I'm aware of it, but I don't know it well enough to say, yes, they'll definitely go this way, or yes, they'll definitely go this way. So I don't know. I'm just excited to see where it goes.
All right, Brian, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I've heard a lot of complaints about it. I don't, like Stacey, I really don't see a problem. My issue is what are they going to do with the property? They've already bought two popular properties, and technically they really haven't done much with either. The Muppets, we had a film, and that's all that we've had so far, and that was 90% Jason Segel. There is no merchandise to support the film. There's barely any merchandise, Muppet merchandise, period. You got the Marvel films, and they still really haven't taken a hold of that per se. Yes, they were kind of the distribution company for the Avengers, but technically it was still a Paramount film. And they really haven't taken ownership of that stuff, too. I mean, anybody can distribute a film. It's what you do with it. So, I'm curious as to what they're going to do with the property. If they are going to do something with the property or just sit on it like they do with the other ones. But LucasArts also encompasses to a degree the Indiana Jones saga. So what's going to happen with that as well? I know Spielberg has a stake in that. How does that affect anything? It's the biggest, question. And this really shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. And there's been a merger between Disney and Star Wars for a while now. They got the Star Tours at Disneyland. It's been there for at least over 10 years I know of.
It's at the MGM Studios as well, and the Hollywood Studios in Orlando as well. I mean, they even revamped it now, where it used to be 2 simulators. Now you have up to 9 different simulations. Which one you get, it's like a randomizer. You never know, so it makes people ride the ride more now.
Yeah, it's been over 10 years since or 15 years since I've been there. When I was there, it was also a partner. They were pimping FedEx at the time too, so I was just like, okay. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But it's just, here's another property, and I've seen the jokes. People were like saying, "Oh yeah, they got Disney has another princess. It's Princess Leia."
That was a funny one though.
Yeah, but what's wrong with a strong female character? I mean, personally, I'd like to see them do something with the female. They could make kind of princesses out of the Marvel heroes, heroines, if they wanted to. But I'm rambling as always.
Well, Mike, what about you? What do you think about the news?
I'm excited because I've always wanted to see the movies after Return of the Jedi, but the problem is they've waited so long that they've left it to where, they can't really follow it directly after Return of the Jedi because everybody's too old.
Which I would say that would be Dark Empire because everyone's kind of older in Dark Empire.
But to an extent, because you see Carrie Fisher right now looking pregnant with twins. Because essentially that's when she's pregnant during that time with Jaina and I can't remember the other kid's name, Solo.
Jason.
So, I mean, you're kind of hurting yourself by waiting so long to do that. So my feeling is if they're going to do it right, they need to move forward to when the kids are actually the adults and have it take place, maybe 20 years from Return of the Jedi instead of, right after. And that's my feeling on it.
Another good point about Lucas Entertainment is the fact of the games. I mean, Disney will pop out a Nintendo DS game or a PlayStation game like nobody else. Even with the Wii too. I mean, you look at the Wii and their new technology. I mean, LucasArts could fit in very well. I mean, I played that Star Wars game on the Kinect where I was able to move around, use force powers, and I was ecstatic. I can only imagine now what Disney's entertainment aspect can add to Lucas's to make it a better experience. So, I mean, as a gamer as well, I'm excited for that merger on top of that.
But the bigger question is like, in terms of licensing, how does this affect anything? Because it's, once again, Hasbro is creating the action figures, and plus their partnership with Lego. That's 2 companies that Disney really doesn't deal that heavily with. For their toys, they mainly use Mattel. And for, they really don't do anything Lego-wise. So it's going to be interesting to see as a license what they're going to do with the property.
But isn't Toy Story Disney? I mean, I know it's also the other company, but you see a lot of that stuff in the Disney stores.
They're Disney stuff, but they're owned by Mattel, which is why most of Disney's stuff comes from Mattel because they have a stake in it. So like Barbie is Mattel and Hot Wheels is Mattel. So You're almost
Right.
thinking that's what, when we were all talking about the toy lines shifting, it almost makes sense for Marvel stuff to start going Mattel's route because of the Disney partnership at that stake. So it's one of those things where that could also fall into our discussion a couple shows ago when we were talking about uh, licenses and what's going to happen with the future of toys.
Right, but with the Legos part of it, there are Toy Story Legos, and that's why I was saying as far as the Legos go.
No, but for the most part, you really don't see it's licensing's a little different, so it can get complicated. So it really depends, you know. There's so many details about the merger that we are not privy to that it makes it a little hard to really assume exactly what's going on.
Well,
I
and
mean,
apparently he's going to have creative input as well, so
right,
it's
and
not like
his
he's just handing it over.
and the vice chair of LucasArts is now going to be the chair. So it's not like a total takeover per se. Like everyone's thinking it is. It's just Disney threw a bunch of money to say, hey, put our name on the picture too. So it's one of those things like you were talking about the Muppets and Marvel aspect. You know, the Muppets as well has been on the Disney theme parks forever. On top of that, because the Muppet Vision 4D at Disney World Orlando, I mean, they're a big part of that park as well. It's a major attraction.
Right.
So I mean, in a sense, you think about it. Brian's right, where he says, you know, we shouldn't be too surprised. I mean, they've been in bed together for so long. It was only a matter of time before the marriage came about.
Agree.
All right. Well, I mean, you know, and I'm actually excited to see what they would do with Indiana Jones properties, only for the fact that I have the trilogy on Blu-ray and whatnot, and I've been part of that stage spectacular in Orlando. I remember raising my hand to volunteer, and they called my name once, and that was a cool experience. So to see what Disney would do with the future of it, you know, they were trying to say Shia LaBeouf was going to be the future, and that kind of like blew up in their face. But another thing, you know, Harrison Ford's a little too old to be playing Indy.
Well,
We'd like to see him.
Ford has gone on record to say he would keep doing the character as he loves the character, and he would keep doing the character on two conditions. One, it's a good script. Two, he's physically able to do the stunts in the script. Those are his only real two conditions. I mean, and, you know, he did a great, you know, a lot of people didn't like the last film. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was as bad as people thought it was.
It wasn't bad, but it was kind of like mixing two things that it was like watching a Starburst commercial. You know, the contradictions. You know, when you think of Indy, you're thinking about past relics. You're not thinking about alien technology. You're thinking you want to see him go through like a tomb and raid a tomb almost, but before you would want to see him in a spaceship that's about to make a crater and go. I mean, I don't know. That was my opinion. Was the whole spaceship thing threw me off for a loop. I mean, but who knows?
I'm still not thrilled. You know, I still don't know how I feel about, you know, Lucas still being involved. And, you know, I'm sorry, I'm of the old school. Hand shot first. It's that simple. Hand shot first, please. We all know it, George. Just admit it, please.
There was also a rumor back a couple when they're doing the prequels that Lucas's son wanted to helm 7, 8, and 9 at some point, and Lucas told him no, like straight told him no. But then Lucas comes out and says, "Well, I've had 7, 8, 9 penned for a while now. What they do with the scripts is up to them." It's almost like he's saying he's giving them material, and what they want to do with it's up to them. But then you read on and say, "Well, he's still going to be creatively involved." So you want to say, well, which one is it? Do you have a script ready to go, or are you going to let them make a decision?
You know, honestly, I'm all in this situation because of the age difference, and you know, we all grew up, and with the remakes going on now, I mean, I'm all for them remaking it and starting over, just for the simple fact that you could bring it back to where it needed to be, rather than trying to work with what you got. I mean, it worked with Star Trek, so I mean, why couldn't it work for Star Wars?
Yeah, but I don't know. I see that as such a drastic difference. The Star Trek TV show is a very passive thinking man's show, while the film was an action film. Hands down, it was an action film. No doubts about it.
I agree.
It's just two different things.
That, and there's a reason why the original, I mean, to say they weren't touched, yes, they were altered sort of, but no one has the gunyats to even go up there and say, hey, I'm going to redo the Star Wars trilogy, because people will laugh at them. I know I would.
But back to the Star Trek analogy, it's just like, some people brought it up to me. It's just like, technically, the old Star Wars, that film helped both, old and new Trekkies, because it still preserved the old history.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you could kind of do the same thing with the Star Wars.
But Star Wars really never dealt with time travel. I mean, it's Star Trek.
True.
Star Trek is I've lost track of the amount of episodes that they've had to deal with time travel. It's their shtick. But,
the best thing for Star Wars to do in this situation, if they wanted to start fresh, would go to the expanded universe and talk either if you're going to go back, do the Old Republic. Like, go that far back and tie it in with a game or tie it in with a new toy line or whatnot. Leave this universe alone. It's almost like when people say they're going to redo an 80s film, all right, keep Michael Bay out of it. And it's like that. Leave this universe alone. They did the prequels. The original trilogy was left sort of alone, but not so much when the little tweaks and twists there. But if they're gonna go forth or backwards, go expand the universe. Start fresh. Even though, I think Hamill said, he was kind of excited to see what they were gonna do. I mean, in his little interview, he says him, Fisher, and Ford have not been contacted to play any roles yet, but George came through and said to them, yeah, I just sold Disney. They didn't even know, and they're like good friends with them. So it was one of those things where I think as the years progress, we'll see this come to fruition, what we want to see. But as the fanboy in me, I'm hoping to see Dark Empire, but I won't be mad if it's not.
For it to succeed at this point in time with the ages of all the original actors, they really have to go far into the future. They really would have to skip a lot of history.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the only way they could really do it to make it work.
I agree 100%.
I mean, and, it wouldn't be hard to do. I mean, we accepted it for the original Star Trek.
Well, look, I mean, in reality, you can make Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, the new Obi-Wan Kenobi, and turn it into that type of story where you just bring it forward with the kids and the family and all that, and him running the Jedi Academy. So, I mean, it's still possible. It's just, like you said, Brian, I mean, you're just going to have to jump forward because there's just no way to go back at this point.
It will be interesting to see.
It will be very interesting to see, and like I said, we have speculations, and we can talk about it on a future show. Our time's running short here, but guys, if you have any questions at all for us, all of our fans, email us or go to our Facebook page or our Twitter page, and come and shoot us up with a suggestion, and we'll be more than happy to bring it up and talk about it on the show. Well, that's our time for tonight. For Stacy, Michael, Dave, Brian, and myself, we thank you for listening and have a great night.